This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge.
Hi, friends. Welcome to this week's pod. This is the show for the week of February 23rd, 2026. And this is what's going on in our Disney World. And it really is the world because you are now a world traveler coming back from overseas from Disneyland Paris. We have a trip report, so buckle up. I hope you have a very long drive ahead of you if you're listening while you're driving, because this might be 4 hours long. A lot of cool news to talk about. We got a lot of construction updates that kind of just popped up, and it's like a lot of little things that are really cool. The software for my mic updated. I can no longer turn this bright light off. So if you're watching, I'm sorry, but now I've got like a glow of red on my face. All right, so we just need time, right? So Phil, you're back. You're going to do a better job than
I am back, yeah,
on the news than last week. I kind of rushed it with the wife, but yeah. So what's going on with the news? We've got a couple big takes, or a couple big things, and then we'll go right on to the trip report.
Yeah, so the first thing was, and I thank you for mentioning it in the news last week, that you were going to let me chat about it too. But there was the rumor or report from Len Testa that came out about that the Imagineers were told to scrap the plans for Villains Land and go back to the drawing board, and money was no object and stuff like that, which obviously then completely took off and everybody ran with it and was being picked up by every news agency. And
But he just said, I'm hearing the initial plans for Villains Land have been scrapped. Imagineers have been told to think bigger, bolder ideas. Budget secondary. Not sure if this is new players, new game, quote unquote, Josh as CEO. That's all he typed.
Yeah.
And it just profligated across the internet in 1,000 pages later on WDW Magic forums. Everybody's whatever. So, what was your initial take? I know we talked about it on his podcast today. I did not hear about listen to it yet. That's listening for me tomorrow morning. Yeah. And he clarified later. But what was your initial take on this?
So, initial take was, I thought it was interesting, and I thought the word "scrapped" was probably what people jumped at, and was kind of what I focused on. Is well, what does that really mean? Because we know there's already water treatment plans out there and the construction started and stuff. So you can't just be all right, forget all the concept arts that's out there, forget construction that started. It can't really mean that, right? And so I took it more as, any limitations you had on your plans. If you were thinking of we'll scale this back a little bit to fit into a budget, that's been scrapped. So go back and plus things, everything you thought of, make it bigger, better, but it's still going to be the same general layout of it. And I think that's what he meant, actually, in a lot of his clarifying points. That's what he was getting back to. What he talked a lot about on the podcast today was that he tied it back to Josh saying about Smuggler's Run, that he thinks a lot of people like it, but they don't love it. And I think what he's saying with this comment is, I want you guys to go back and make sure everybody loves everything in here, not just likes it. And I think that's kind of what I thought too. The same thing happened with Galaxy's Edge with Rise of the Resistance, when Iger said to go back to the Imagineers and said no, this isn't enough. You need to go back and think bigger. And plus it didn't mean they redid all of Galaxy's Edge. It just meant they got a little bit more creative and kind of went bigger and bolder with Rise of the Resistance. And I think that's what's really what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the more common sense take, I think. There was a part of me that thought you're not changing Piston Peak at all, because those plans are imminent. But there could have been some places where can we fit another show building? I thought they potentially could mean that they're adding another building. But when they said scrapped, or when he said scrapped, I'm I don't think they just completely wiped the floor with everything and starting from fresh. Like you said, Len Testa clarified 24 hours later or whatever it was. He says, I think the coaster is still in the mix. I think things look like a train station is a train station. I suspect I could be wrong here, but a lot of new directions is previous concept had a coaster. Now the new direct is Plus It, like you said. New concept had an indoor ride. They were thinking Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway. Now they're thinking more Rise of the Resistance, which is great for everybody.
Yeah.
So he's approaching it from two different angles. What's going to sell lightning lanes, multi-pass and single passes, and how we make this friendly to parents with small children. So I think that should have been his initial post where there's more budget allocated to things. But like it just opened up a whirlwind, and I'm curious, Josh is not even the CEO yet. I think he's got another 3-4 weeks before that happens.
March 18th. Yeah.
So personally, I think once he's in charge and there's really nobody looking over his shoulder. I mean, I guess the board is always looking over your shoulder, but like when he could do things, he's going to start be like, we need to do this, 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 and this. And that's kind of what's been happening at the parks under his tenure the last couple of years. As soon as Iger came back, he started plussing things, doing refurbishments and all this other stuff. All these things that we saw that were in their backlog started finding money. So we'll see. I like it. I don't think there's any drastic changes, but to me, I think it's like he knows that the first major thing to happen domestically is going to be like Piston Peak and Villains Land, the big giant hole in Disney World, and that's going to be his first impression to the greater population of Disney fans out there, right? Because Disneyland's not getting anything before Villains Lands opens, right? Like, or is Pandora's not going to open before then? I don't think. Maybe
over at Disneyland, Pandora probably not. I think Coco will, and
Coco's just started construction.
Yeah, and they've been working on the e-ticket and Avengers Campus. So I think those will be open, but not Pandora.
Do you think that would be as defining as something like this, though? That would
no. I think I think the larger things they're doing over at Disneyland with like the Eastern Gateway stuff and kind of changing all that, which I'm not sure the timeline on when that's going to be complete. That's maybe as defining because that's really changing like how you get to Disneyland.
Yeah, it's changing the landscape of the parks. Yeah. So I don't know.
Mm.
I love talking about this stuff, but then the farther down the line I start talking about this, I'm really realizing that there's still nothing to talk about because we don't know anything yet. We'll know hopefully more this summer.
Yeah. The other things Len mentioned on the show today was that apparently, and Jim Hill was hearing it too, that these conversations were happening when basically people came back from holiday break. So it's not like just this week. And clearly that was even before Josh was officially named CEO. Yeah. So obviously he was, head of the park. So he had a lot of power anyway, but I don't think this is just because he became CEO that this is coming out. This happened beforehand. He also talked a lot about how it seemed like the way he was saying it was the initial plans had the coaster as being like the big e-ticket and the dark ride was maybe the secondary one, still a big attraction, but the second one.
Sure.
And it sounds like they want to almost flip that where the coaster is like a big ride, but would be the multi-pass, not the single pass. And now they really want to plus the dark ride. And that's going to be the major like Rise of the Resistance level ride. He did also confirm that there will be a, what was the word? A character meal dining restaurant in there too is going to be part of it as well, which I think is good.
Sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And he just compared it a lot. They're looking at Epic Universe and the way they're making money. And it sounded like there's a lot of like, we know more than we can really say. We're being careful with what we can say, that sort of thing. But I don't know. It seems like a lot of focusing on getting return out of all the investments for this. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming they're going to figure out ways like with merch and food and I don't know, the equivalent of Harry Potter wands or something. I don't know, but there's going to be like, they're really, like you said, it's a defining thing for Josh, but I think they're also really focusing on how are we going to get return on our investment for this.
I mean, are they going to be smart if they did like, the Mario wristbands that you had that we saw like in Tokyo and the wands and stuff like that. I mean, I think that'd be good. I mean, I think at the very least they need to be looking at a lounge, a expensive sit down restaurant, some kind of weenie of the park of that section where like you can sell merch to it. There's viewing things and interaction points.
Dessert parties and stuff like that.
All that type of stuff, right? Yeah. So, I mean, Disney knows how to make money out of park guests. They've been doing a very good job out of it. So I'd be surprised if there wasn't stuff like that for it that they can roll out to other parts of the park as they expand, I suppose.
Yep. And the last point I wanted to make, I had been hearing some people talking like, oh, they're just saying this because they're behind schedule. And rather than say we're behind schedule, we're saying we went back to the drawing board. And that's why it's going to take longer because of that. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think they're still on schedule. We're seeing how fast they're going with construction. I just think that, they realized that they need to do this right. and they don't want to. They don't want to do what they're having to do with Smuggler's Run, which is 5 years down the road, realize the mistakes they made and fix it. They want to get it right from the first time. So they're saying, do what you need to do. Don't worry about the budget to get it right.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one.
The other news items that just came out today that's big for Walt Disney World is that Disney released a lot more information about the magic of Disney animation that is coming to Hollywood studios later this summer. The big part of this that came out is that the Animation Academy, which is the part where we knew was going to be part of it, where someone will teach you how to draw a character, which we've seen various places around Walt Disney World. I guess Rafiki's Planet Watch just closed today, but before it was being done there, where you would go and get like a pad and paper and listen to an artist tell you how to draw a certain character. They're going to be like modifying it and I guess sort of plussing that experience, with the key thing being an Olaf animatronic is going to be a part of it. I guess it's tying into the scene that Olaf had in the movie Once Upon a Studio, where he was at the artist's desk and drawing and stuff like that. So they're going to be using animatronic, because I guess they're making Olaf animatronics everywhere. So I guess Walt Disney World has to get their own. But on the flip side, they're not going to have a live animation artist there doing it for the crowd and leading them. They're going to have pre-recorded bits from legendary Disney animators that are out there that are going to teach you how to draw some of their most famous characters and stuff like that. So I think it's cool that they're getting the legendary artists to do it. Feels like you're losing something by not having a live person in there, that you're actually seeing them create the drawing right in front of you. But obviously the animatronic is a huge plus. So it feels a little like a plus or minus. I do think the average fan is going to see this as a big win, to see Olaf up there moving around and drawing and stuff like that. And they're probably not going to be as upset about not having a live artist as maybe the more hardcore fan is. But I don't know. What are your thoughts when you heard this, Jason?
I mean, I thought this was really cool when I saw this was announced. I haven't read a lot of the internet feedback until like later this evening, right? I went on WDW Magic and started reading through that. The owner of the site was like, animatronic, cool, no live animator, not so good. And everybody else is calling Disney cheap and everything else like that. I have the totally opposite opinion. I think this is absolutely fantastic. What you can do with this is there's a lot of different things from an operational point of view and everything else. So this is like just like any other like stage show. They have different showings. You get people in and people out. If you have a live performer or live artist in there teaching everything, the timetable might be a little bit more disjointed. With a pre-recorded message, you can have famous people or famous animators, in there doing things, and like, hey, there's a new movie coming out and you want the animators from that movie coming in, they can come in and teach you how to draw those characters as a part of a thing. So you can kind of insert different animators to do it. So I think it keeps it fresh. Because I'm assuming this is staying around for at least 5 years or so, at the very least. So I like it. I never really saw the appeal of having a live animator while I'm in my park day. Like if this was just like the only thing I was doing that day and I signed up for a class, yeah, I want the live animator. But like something I could bring my kids into, and it's, I don't know, 20-minute show or whatever it is, and they teach you whatever. I think it's really cool, especially with an Olaf animatronic. I think it's a win-win in my opinion. I guess everybody else are like, oh no, we want real animators, and I don't think that really. I think it is a fit for the park. A live animator would be great, but I think it's just, I think you're expecting too much, and I just think it would just be, I don't know, a waste of a person sitting there over time. I think, because I don't know how busy something like this could be, and they could be running from morning to night. I don't know. I'm contrary to your opinion, Phil.
Yeah, it's a little contrary. I mean, I think there is something about somebody being there live, drawing it and creating something right on the spot. I do get your point about this improves probably the timing a little bit. And like I said, I do think it's great to have people like Eric Goldberg going to be out there showing how he draws Genie when he actually drew Genie and Aladdin and stuff like that. So I think that's cool. It just feels a little bit like I could probably find a YouTube video that would do the same thing. And I don't know, but I think like you said, for kids, this is probably great. They're going to be way more excited about the Olaf animatronic than there not being a live person teaching them how to draw. So, I mean, I
could find a YouTube video to show me to draw anything. I don't know. To me personally, like I'm only talking about my personal opinion, right? Yep. Like watching a live animator do it versus watching a video, to me, that's kind of the same type of thing. And if you're sitting in you might not even be able to see the person drawing. You're still looking on a screen that's showing what they're doing there live anyway, potentially.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on how many people do you want to go in and out of that place. I'm just really excited because the next part that you did mention is like the full list of character meet and greets. Like, there's some really cool things going in here that I think is going to really help that park out quite a bit.
Yeah. So the other parts of this that they announced is that previously they had mentioned there's going to be a series of character meet and greets that were going to have various backgrounds and sets, and it's going to represent the different sort of stages of creating a piece of animation. And before, I think the one we knew was that I think we had heard Rapunzel was going to be in one and Mulan was going to be one. Well, now we have the full list. So we know Mulan is in the story set. Rapunzel is in layout. Chip and Dale will be in hand-drawn animation. Donald and Daisy in CG animation. Goofy in lighting, and Stitch in effects. So those are going to be the characters. I guess it's initially it said 6 characters. There's 6 spots, but actually 2 of them will have 2 characters. So there'll actually be a total of 8 characters that you'll be able to meet in here, which I think is pretty cool. I do wish, Mulan's, I guess, a little bit different and stuff. It feels like a lot of the regular characters. There's not like too many rare characters, but still it's a nice lineup of characters that I think will be pretty popular.
Yeah.
And then the last, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I'm just disappointed this is probably not going to open when I'm there at around the 4th of July. Is this?
It sounds like more later summer.
I'm assuming that's August.
Yeah.
Bummer.
The last part of this that they announced was that the Once Upon a Studio Theater will be part of this, where guests can watch the Emmy Award-winning short Once Upon a Studio. However, it will be enhanced with effects and surprise character moments woven into the artwork of the theater. I don't necessarily know what that means. I'm assuming it's going to be a lot of screens and stuff on the side of the wall that'll have things happening during the show and stuff like that tie into what was going on in the actual film. So kind of like one of those 4D type effects. So that's neat because that was a really good short and stuff like that. So it's nice that they're going to be leveraging that, which was sort of the inspiration for this whole project and that sort of thing.
No, I'm with you on that. I think I'm looking forward to the finished product here.
Yep.
Want to move on to construction updates before we get to your.
I did have actually one more news item that just broke. It was just announced who is going to be the godparent for the Disney Adventure cruise ship. Do you want to guess who it is?
I have no idea.
Robert Downey Jr. So actually not too far off, but Robert Downey Jr. is going to be the godparent of the Disney Adventure. So there you go. So I thought I'd throw that in there as a little breaking news item that just came out. So
we don't often get to do breaking news on this show on Monday nights when we record, so that's pretty good. All right, yeah. So construction updates. Before we get to your trip report, I'll do this quick fill to give you as much time as you can get, even though we're going to go over a million minutes at this point. All right, first, Magic Kingdom. A couple different things. A lot of things are happening. A lot of small things, like I mentioned at the top of the show. Cinderella's Castle and Tomorrowland are getting some paint. So we haven't seen too many more updates since last week with Cinderella's Castle. However, there was scaffolding seen in the moat, and you can see some people kind of painting like the side retaining walls, the rocks start doing, kind of giving that a nice little freshening up. Similarly, on the other side of the park, because that was done on the Frontierland side, on the other side, they're painting the rocks by Tomorrowland. Those big kind of space boulder jetting up type of things. They look like they're being painted a little bit of a darker color. I don't know, Phil, if that's going to be like they're going away from like the purplish blue hue to more of like
I mean, that's what it seems like. Assuming this is the final color, it does seem like they're getting away from that sort of fantasy looking purple into something a little more natural.
What do you like? Which one do you like better?
I like the natural. I think that makes more sense, although I'm assuming it's still supposed to be Earth and not that we're on another planet or something like that. So I think the natural makes sense.
I never really got the rocks anyway, but I like the natural look. It looks a little bit cleaner, I think, especially with the contrast to like a lot of the buildings are going to get whiter and whiter as
I agree.
We do things. So I think that'll be a good contrast. Big Top Souvenirs is closed for refurbishment. I don't recall reading how long it'll be, but I heard it has to do with cleaning like the tent and kind of, making it all spiffy. Another big one is the Frontierland like carts. I don't have a list of all the different names, but like there's the ones right outside of oh goodness.
It's right across from the Country Bears.
Country Bears Jamboree, excuse me. So there's some like food, popcorn, and everything else. Those are going to go away, which you would expect because they're doing work on that side of the park. So those are going to be gone. There's permitted for demo. Not a date, but I would expect that to be pretty soon. BioReconstruct has some really good pictures from both sides of the castle, kind of showing some of that. A lot of people have pictures out there, so if you're curious to watch the progress, you can. The one thing I did notice, Phil, there's not much progress happening on the front of the park. I guess they're or the front of the castle because they're kind of trying to conserve like the weird multicolored pictures that everybody takes every
That's true.
Day. So if anything that you can see, it's going to be some of the stuff on the spires at the very top that are kind of against the sky that kind of might be able to blend together for a nicer picture. So we'll see. Other than that, the Haunted Mansion scrim is completely wrapped up and up. It started off with a little itty bitty thing. We're like, what's going on here? Now the whole thing is blocked off. Looks kind of funny. Don't know how long that's going to last, but hopefully not too long. And the other thing is, I don't know if this is worth mentioning, but there was an electrical system expansion permit that was kind of noted out last week. I'm assuming they're bringing power from an outside transformer to like the opposite side to like where Dylan's Lane is going to be, and they're laying the infrastructure for that now. So I don't think it's altogether anything important to note, but like it's a small little cup. Unless you like electrical work, then this is very exciting for you. We're going back next to Animal Kingdom. Conservation Station has been closed. The sign has been wrapped up, and permits have been filed ahead of the Bluey conversion. So I don't know how much work, Phil, they're going to be doing there, but I guess it's a lot of set work that they have to get ready for.
That's what it sounds like, a lot of set work, getting ready for that meet and greet. And there was, I guess, sort of a rumor where they haven't said when Bluey is going to start, but some cast members were telling people that it's going to take about 3 months, which puts us right about Memorial Day, which is kind of when the start of Cool Kids Summer was, which I think sort of aligns with what everybody was thinking. So it seems like that is when it's going to be.
Yeah. I don't think anybody was expecting this before Memorial Day anyway. So this kind of marries everything up together. Last permit was for the animation building and for the animation courtyard project. This is the building adjacent to the building that's being worked on externally now. That's where a lot of the things are going to be happening. So they're going to start working on that, which just shows that to me, this seems a little late for that. I don't know how much of that building is going to get used or whatever. So I'd be curious to see what actually happens in that building. So those are the construction updates. Anything major. No new BioReconstruct pictures for aerials. I'm still waiting on that riverbed track retaining wall forms that are in the ground to actually start getting filled in with stuff. Another thing to look out for. So everybody's asking for when Big Thunder Mountain is going to be opening up, because we've seen some test vehicles, test trains on the tracks. But if you look at some of the aerials, the whole front of the entrance to that ride is all torn up as part of the Piston Peak project. So there's really no way to get into that ride. So I imagine we can look for some pavement or some kind of temporary thing to go up there so people can get to that ride currently. So once that work starts, then you could probably start thinking, okay, this is going to be like a month out for it to be open and ready to go. So something to keep an eye out for as you're taking a look at it. Okay, so Phil, you were at a place in the last week and a half.
Yep.
Where were you, and what did you do?
Yep. So this past week was President's Week, which is our holiday or winter break that we have at schools, and we generally try to do something for that break. We decided to mix it up a little bit because it seemed like everybody wanted to go somewhere south where it was warm, so the flights were kind of expensive everywhere. And we found we could get flights for not too much more all the way over to Paris, France. So that's what we decided to do. That was a location that my wife's always wanted to go to. So it kind of was like, well, this seems like a good excuse to get you to that place you always want to go to. And as an added bonus, there happens to be a Disney theme park there as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we thought we'd mix that in a little bit. Yeah, I know. So what we ultimately wound up doing was we spent 4 nights at an apartment rented in kind of a residential part of Paris, and did a whole bunch of stuff around the city. And then we did 3 nights at Disneyland Paris, staying at the Disneyland Hotel, which is the one like right at the entrance to the park. As I mentioned, the motivation for our trip was to get to Paris and kind of do something different. The kids do like to travel and stuff like that. My son was very excited for the plane ride and stuff like that. So that was really what it was, to kind of fit these 2 elements in. So that's kind of the setup for that. I could start going through some of the kind of the more specifics, unless there was something you wanted to kick off with first, Jason.
No, I think like, for the first, 4 days of your trip, including your travel day out there, you spent time in Paris, like you said, kind of seeing the sights, going to museums, eating the food, that type of thing. I think one of the more important details is each one, two of your children got at least sick for a day, weren't feeling well, and that kind of
Yeah.
might have an impact on your vibe for one of the days in your further trip. So why don't you go over? I'd like to know. I mean, I like to hear about the whole trip, but I don't know if we can do like a whole half trip report just on Paris since we're not,
Yeah.
not a Paris thing. So why don't you go over before you go and you transfer it over to the to Disneyland? Tell me how like the vibes were like, how was your family meshing together, the weather, what was the excitement level each day, some of like the highlights, what the kids really liked, what they didn't like, that sort of thing. Because what I like to do is set the stage for the mood. And like, were you guys super tired? Did it feel like a whole new vacation as you were transferred? Like all that stuff. Let's set the stage for the Disney trip with, your adventure in Paris.
Yep. Yeah. So we were starting out in Paris. We did have a bit of a strategy. We've done, my wife's taken the other two kids over to Italy before. So we've done sort of this, and we were trying to say, how do we keep the kids up and keep them going? So we did try to be active even on that first day. And the mood going in was people were excited to be there, but they were dragging a little bit from the flight. Obviously it is kind of a long, it's like 6+ hours in the air all the way over. You try to get some sleep, but can't sleep too much on the plane. And so I think everyone was excited about it. We were hoping for better weather. I will put it that way. Temperature wise, it wasn't too bad, although it was a little colder than things were trending before we got over there. There was just a lot of rain almost every day. And I think that did kind of drag people down a little bit versus, nice sunny days and stuff like that. But people were excited. We had a nice schedule. People knew what we were doing. A lot of it was focused around food, but also taking in, some of the museums and stuff like that are obviously Paris is known for. You can't go over there and not do things like that. So you are correct that on 2 different days, one of my kids was sick. On one day it was my son. So he missed out on one of the museums we went to. But the other day, my daughter was sick, my oldest one. I think she was partly physically sick and partly mentally, like, I need a break from my brother and sister.
You need a day.
Yes, she needed a day. So she spent it kind of just vegging on the couch in the apartment and stuff like that. The apartment worked out well overall. Like I said, it was more of a residential area, but it was really close to a major metro station. So we basically took the metro everywhere. We're obviously close to New York, so we're used to taking the subway and stuff like that. So it just felt sort of like that. Although I found they have much more stairs. It was less escalators and convenience, definitely not as ADA compliant as over in the US. So there were a couple times where we were on like,
you do not have the ADA.
Yeah, obviously not the ADA. So they don't have the FDA or whatever it would be. But it was, we'd be down on like the 3rd level down. It would just have the one side had this like spiral staircase that went up like 3 or 4 stories, and we were all like exhausted by the time we got to the end of it.
Got your steps in.
Yeah, but across the days we did a lot of the big kind of touristy things. The first day we actually went to go see Notre Dame, which we were able to get reservations for, which was great. It's obviously such a impressive building, and one of those things you kind of have to do when you're over there.
Yep.
That night we had a nice dinner at a souffle place. We did a food tour the next day, which was kind of one of the big things, kind of one of the more, things we put a little bit money behind into this Montmartre area, so that we got to experience a lot of different like shops and just how like food is over there. So we went around to different stores like bakeries and butchers and cheesemongers and stuff like that, and collected all this food, and then had kind of a meal afterwards. That's cool. One thing I mentioned in here was that was where we saw the first couple that had recently gotten engaged. They had gotten engaged the night before at the Eiffel Tower. So everybody in our group was wishing them, happy engagement and stuff like that. So that was exciting. We also went to a fondue place there. That was interesting restaurant that they have 2 long tables. You have to like climb over the tables to get to the other side of the bench, and they serve all the drinks in baby bottles, and all the walls are all colored and drawn on. So I did tag the wall with the DBC pod.
Excellent.
So
I saw the
everyone,
picture.
Yeah, so hopefully everyone over there can find it.
I think that'll be our thumbnail for this show. I think it's really cool.
We didn't, one of the big decisions we decided not to do is we didn't do the Louvre, just because that is like a huge commitment if you're going to do it. And we knew our kids weren't going to want to spend like 8 hours in a museum.
Yeah.
And if you don't spend like for a private tour, you're spending a lot of time just waiting in line to see the Mona Lisa and stuff like that. So we did 2 other museums, the Museum de l'Orangerie and also the Museum d'Orsay, which, you know, like, oh, they're lesser museums. Like the first one had these giant large scale water lily paintings that Monet did, and also had, you know, other famous paintings by famous artists. The other one had the famous Van Gogh self-portrait painting, and had Monet's and Degas's and Van Gogh's. And like, so even though these were like the lesser museums, you're still seeing these like amazing pieces of art and stuff like that. So, and we spent about 2 hours in each one, which I think was a good amount that the kids were able to sort of put up with, and we're excited to see the works of art and like didn't get too tired of it and that sort of thing. So I think that worked out well. One thing we did get planned that wound up getting canceled was we were going to do a boat trip that was like a sightseeing thing up and down the river. The water level was too high, so the boats couldn't fit like under the bridges.
Oh,
so they ultimately had to,
right?
so they ultimately had to cancel that, which was a little bit of a bummer. We did go to the Eiffel Tower, and we were able to see, get the tickets that took the elevator all the way up to the top. And you do, you know, it's over 1,000 feet high. So you do get a pretty good view of the city. And it was really neat to just, I don't know, the elevators that go up, because it's all like, I don't know, it's like Jules Verne looking almost, or like with all the gears and metal and stuff like that. It looked really cool to go up.
Did anybody make any Soren jokes with the curvature of the Eiffel Tower?
We didn't actually. No, this one, it was definitely straight. It wasn't a Soren Eiffel Tower. It was definitely straight. Although the first elevator does go up at an angle. So I guess we could have made the joke then a little bit, because you're going up like one of the legs. And that was where we witnessed the second engagement of the trip, as a couple just got proposed. My wife was offered to take their photos and stuff like that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And the only other big thing we did was, which was nice, that now that our kids are getting a little bit older, we are comfortable leaving them alone, especially with the oldest turned 17 this trip, so she, you know, can watch the other two. So my wife and I had a nice date night out at a nice like Michelin star restaurant, and we're out for the night and had a good one. So that was.
I'm just amazed that your daughter's turning 17. Like when we started this, she was like, so like not even a teenager. We've been talking about like our kids becoming teenagers. It's
I know,
absolutely crazy to me.
It's absolutely crazy. So, yeah, I think we basically accomplished pretty much everything we wanted to, other than that boat trip. I think we had a nice mix of like activities, like wandering around, just going to little cafes and things you wander upon, and things like that, but having more other things planned. Mixed in a couple museums, so we saw some famous works of art without overdoing it, I think. So other than the fact that the rain, it was raining and colder than we were hoping for, I think we kind of got accomplished what we wanted to in Paris. And overall, I think we really enjoyed it. My son commented that he wants to go back. He seemed to really like Paris, the city, and stuff like that, which I think was interesting. Not that I'm a super global traveler or anything, but of the city, the non-American cities I've been to, this is the city that reminded me the most of New York. It really had that kind of New York vibe. Just how
I could see that.
The way that the people acted, not that they're rude, but they're kind of like, I'm doing my thing and I'm trying to get where I'm going. And, that sort of thing, which I think a lot of New Yorkers have. Obviously, subway was very prevalent, which is the same thing in New York. It just kind of gave me that New York vibe. So if you're considering going, do you like New York? If so, then you'll probably like Paris. If you're like, oh God, I hate New York, maybe pick a different European city to go to for your first one in Europe. So
yeah, I was in Paris in 2019, and that's very much it. The attitude, the hustle bustle is very, very close to New York. I agree with that.
Yeah. The one thing I did notice too, though, was I was wondering, is like everybody going to be like dressed up and super like stylish and stuff like that? And you definitely saw some people like that, but it's kind of a mix. And that was another thing, but it felt like New York, like it felt like you had this mix, like of all sorts of people, like, kind of more avant-garde people, more like just walking around in like sweats and stuff like that or whatever. So it was kind of all over the place. Definitely do appreciate all the like fresh baked goods you can get there, like all the bakeries and stuff around where you could just go get like croissants and all that sort of stuff. And one thing I did think related to Walt Disney World is we always talk about what a great deal getting the whole baguette at La Halle in the France Pavilion, where it's like $5 or whatever for the whole baguette. We did learn during our food tour there's regulations about what they can charge for baguettes in France.
Oh, really?
And like there's different levels of baguettes, but even the nicest one, they can't charge more than, I think it was 1.2 euro, so about $1.50.
Okay.
So like I don't know if
that's ripped off. And
I know it's like all of a sudden we thought that was so cheap, and then I'm like picking up like baguettes for like $1. So I thought that was kind of funny that it made me think of that. So so we had 4 nights, so including our arrival day, kind of the 4 days there. And then on day 5 was when we transitioned over to Disneyland Paris. So I don't know. Was there anything else you want? Sorry, go ahead.
Let's start. Let's set the stage now. So you've had this wonderful experience for 3.5 days, 4 days.
Yeah.
What time do you wake up? So this is day 5 of your, what was it, 8-day adventure?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Yes, 8 days. So we're at day 5. You've done a lot at this point. How's the family feeling when you woke? When did you wake up? How did you got everything packed? I'm assuming the night before. So how was like, all right, now we got to get going. We got to go to the second half. So how was everybody feeling?
Yeah, I think everyone was excited about the move. I think it was one of those things where it's like, wow, it went fast the 4 days we had there, of course. And we were like, but we were looking forward to getting to Disneyland. We knew we had to be out by 11. So we were targeting, let's try to leave the room between, around 10ish, maybe a little after, that sort of thing. So we didn't like wake people up at the crack of dawn or anything like that, but got up, had breakfast. And like you said, finished packing and showering and stuff like that, and just kind of getting ready to go. And it always takes, you have 3 kids as well. It always takes longer to get out the door than you think it will. But
not
we did
my
that.
house. I'm leaving you. There's plenty of times when that car's halfway up the driveway and my daughter's running out chasing us. But I get it. Yeah.
So we left around, it was right around 10:15, I think, that we left. And we were walking down the streets of Paris with all of our luggage to get to the train station, because we were taking the train to Disneyland Paris. And it was fun when you get there and you look up at the train sign, and they even have like for the stop that goes there, they had a little Mickey head and stuff like that, which I think was fun.
I saw the picture.
Yeah, fun to do that. And it's just like a regular metro. I mean, it takes like 40 minutes or something like that, but it was like a metro pass. It was like $3 or whatever to take the train from the city over to
no
the station.
$100 Mears bus that you had to take or something.
You didn't have to do that. So I thought, even though it was obviously a little inconvenient to dragging the luggage, and it's literally like a regular like commuter train or whatever. So we're just sitting on these little seats with holding our luggage and stuff like that. So it wasn't the most comfortable ride, but we did that, and it was. You get to the train station there, and you literally like round the corner, and you're like exiting the train station. You see like the Earful Tower that's over in the studios and stuff like cool. Disney's like right there. We did have a little bit of issue finding the entrance to the hotel. That's one thing I didn't really, I guess I should have done more research. I thought it would have been quite obvious that like, this is how you enter into this hotel, but it's actually kind of on one of the sides is where the lobby is and stuff like that. And it wasn't well marked. We had to ask like several people to like, how do we find the entrances? But once we did, we were able to check in. They have really great luggage service at this hotel. So you basically just like check in. We got our tickets. They gave us like a little book and stuff about it, went over things. And then we leave our bags with the belt stand. And then we just go into the parks. And once our room is ready, they brought the bags right up to our room. We didn't even have to like call down or anything like that. So when we got back after our room was ready, the bags were already there.
So let me stop here. Let me ask you a couple questions. So you get off the train station. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at Google Maps right now, right? So trying to get a sense. Do you get out? I'm assuming this is the trains because it's the only train tracks. Like, it's that pointing. What direction do you get off on? So, like, if you're standing with Disneyland Paris behind you, mm-hmm. right? Was the train station to your left or to your right?
So Disneyland Paris itself, the train station would be, if that's to your back, it would be, the entrance would be to your left.
Okay, so I'm looking at it here. So, and then the hotel is, I'm trying to look, where is the hotel here?
So the hotel is right at it's like after security. So if you're going into the park.
So it is accurate. I see it. Yeah. So where was the entrance? So you're like walking up. It looks like some really nice grounds. You're kind of walking through like some pathways.
Yeah. So
stuff like that.
So basically there's like, I think they call it the Fantasia Gardens, which like wanders you down towards the entrance to the park. And a big chunk of the hotel is right there, right above like where the entrance to the park is. And if you're entering the park, you go under that. So you're going under the hotel, and right above you is where all like the restaurants and stuff like that in the hotel are. And the entrance, basically the ticket stands are like right there underneath the hotel. But the parts, it's on the side, which is where the wings are, where most of the rooms are. And on one of those sides is where the entrance is, where the lobby and stuff like that is. So it's like, you see this like grand thing, but that's really kind of the central part of the hotel. It's not where you go into the hotel.
Is it like if you were walking, because I'm imagining this. So typically when we come into the Magic Kingdom, we always take the right entrance of the train station, right? Because we're usually coming from the bus. We kind of go right in, right? And there's always like the left-hand turn you can take under the train station to like where you can go. Like there's like I don't know if it's security or there's like guest services. You can rent whatchamacallit, strollers, that sort of thing. Is it kind of like that where you're going in and then you have to immediately take a left to kind of
sort of, yeah. So the train station though is like in front of the hotel. So the hotel is kind of like where all the if you're ending Magic Kingdom, where all the like tap styles are and stuff like that.
What I'm saying is like the sense like when you're walking in, like you want to walk straight through, but like you had to hang.
You do have to pick either right or left, to go around. Same thing, for sure. Like
okay, I'm trying to visualize you're like not finding it because it was like tucked away. It wasn't plainly obvious.
Right, exactly. Like once we knew where it was like, okay, this is what it is, no big deal. But when you didn't know where you were going, I guess it was a little confusing. But yeah, we come right out of the hotel there, and then you make a right, and there's a turnstile right there, ticket entrance right there. It's not a private entrance. They don't have a private entrance from the hotel like the Grand Californian does. You basically come out of the hotel and then you're right at the turnstiles, but they're turnstiles anybody can use.
Okay.
So we did that. So we went into the park to kind of get our bearings. Just went in and kind of tried to take it all in, what Main Street looked like. Obviously we're automatically starting to think of, like what are the differences to Florida and stuff like that. And obviously one of the big differences is when you look down the road, you see a very different looking castle. That looks much more kind of fantasy and storybook and that sort of thing. One thing that, and this will be one of my sort of takeaways at the end, is it felt very similar to the Magic Kingdom, but you did feel that they basically learned a lot of lessons from that, and they plussed a lot of things. They improved a lot of things on like kind of what works. So even little things like they have a lot of shops and stuff that are, same thing at Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World, where there's like, the windows of all like kind of the shops and stores that are supposedly up there. A lot of them, they have play audio and stuff like that. So it makes it seem like people are actually up there. So one was like a dentist and you could hear them, like some guys like, performing dentistry on somebody else. And you hear somebody like yelling and complaining and stuff like that. And then he starts laughing. It's like, you pulled out the wrong tooth and stuff like that. And like another place, there's like piano lessons going on and stuff like that. So it felt very lived in. The other thing that's great is they have these walkways on either side of Main Street. So there's the center way down, but then they have these covered walkways on either side that are great because it's like, now there's three ways of getting down Main Street from one end to the other. The side ones are covered, which is obviously nice when the weather isn't that great. And you can get into all the stores and like bake shops and stuff like that. They all have back entrances to them too, that you can get in from those different sideways. So those were some of the things that we thought about as we were walking down Main Street.
So when you're come to the end of Main Street and you're seeing that castle like right ahead, do you get like first, like, is it a better castle or is it just a different castle?
So it's interesting. I was wondering what I was going to think about it because you hear about how it's the most beautiful castle, and I was kind of expected to be like kind of in awe of it. It's really pretty. It's really nice. It fits like, it does feel like a Sleeping Beauty because they have the square trees and stuff like that fit the movie and stuff like that. It is actually a little bit smaller than the one.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's like 140 something feet versus 180 something feet. That's one thing. Like Disneyland Paris is a little bit smaller than the Magic Kingdom. So like the hub's smaller, Main Street's smaller, like things felt a little more cozy, I guess. So the castle is a little.
Did it feel like Bizarro Magic Kingdom a little bit?
A little bit. Like it felt like everything that they knew about, but they did like a little twist on everything. So obviously the castle looks a little bit different. You can walk through the castle in their stores. You can walk up to the second story in the castle, and you can walk out on like balconies and overlook Fantasyland from up there. So it's like all these little things that they thought of ways to sort of plus or improve things. And then obviously one of the first things we did, and I posted this on Discord, was we went down into the dungeon of the castle.
This is one of the things, like, is the number one thing I would want to do.
And it was like the first thing we did. Yeah.
What time did you get to the parks? So a general sense.
Yeah, it was just a bit before noon that we
you got
walked
there
into the
quick
park.
then.
Yeah, we got there pretty early. Yeah.
Okay, so you're in there at noon. You go up to Castle. Are you just like dawdling through Main Street, kind of sightseeing, taking your time, or are you beelining it for the?
No,
castle?
we were kind of taking our time, like not like
Okay.
wanting to like totally like look at every nook and cranny, but we wanted to kind of take it in and stroll around and stuff like that. We weren't like booking it. Like we
Right.
wanted to kind of appreciate being there.
Okay, so you're in the castle. Where's the entrance to go in there? Is it in the back?
So there's a couple entrances to get to the dungeon. The first one and the one we used was actually before you get into the castle. There's a path to the left side, and they have a lot of different art installations around, like kind of like mobile type things. And one of them that looks like Maleficent is kind of right out front of where you need to go. And there's a sign on it about the dungeon. And you get in there, and I will say it is very dark when you get in there. It was like I almost needed to like turn on my phone's flashlight or something like that.
Okay.
And all of a sudden you come upon just this like kind of like little moat type area, not moat, like water area. And there's just this ginormous animatronic dragon that's there. And it's just kind of like chilling, just kind of like you can see the wings moving a little bit and an aisle open every now and then. And then all of a sudden it like lifted its whole head up and like roared and moved around and stuff like that. And it was really cool to see. So that was something like super unique.
How long is the walkthrough? Like, is it like 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Like, what's the duration of the whole thing?
It's pretty short. It's like you kind of walk through just darkness, and then you get to this lagoon or whatever you want to call it, where the dragon is, and it's there. And then there's like a back entrance, and there's an entrance you can go from that area right into the actual castle. But that's pretty much it. So it's like it's not really a big walkthrough. Yeah, it's a pretty quick thing.
So we got your take on the castle. We got your take on my favorite thing that I would want there is see the dragon. Do we need a dragon or a basement or something in our castle to make it more interactive other than just walking through it or eating a very expensive meal there?
I think it would be, I don't know what it should be. If it should be the same thing of bringing the castle, I mean, that certainly would be a plus. I don't know if they could, with the utilidors and stuff like that, put a dungeon in. But they also have like a walkthrough attraction in the castle where you walk through and you see all the stained glass and stuff like that tells the story of Sleeping Beauty, like basically the whole plot of the movie and stuff. I do think it would be cool if there was some more of a reason for people to spend time at and in the castle. What that is, I don't know what if we want it to be the same thing, but something would be nice.
So, okay, so we only have kind of like, I want to say a half a day, maybe a little bit less, because you still got to get back to the hotel and everything else. So what were your goals after now you're at the castle? What were your goals that you wanted to do, and what did you actually do?
Yeah, it was really just to take it in and kind of understand a lay of the land and walk through and maybe do one or two of the attractions that we wanted to do to make sure we could get them in. I did know later that night I wanted to go and see the fireworks. But during the day, there wasn't a set plan of really what we wanted to do. We were checking wait times and stuff like that, and I did notice that the wait time for Phantom Manor, which is one of the must-do rides I wanted to do, was pretty low. It was like 15 minutes or something like that. So we all decided to do that. So we headed into Frontierland to walk over and check out Phantom Manor. So we did that as our first real ride of the trip.
Am I going to ask you how was each ride individually? Because that's kind of what I wanted to do. So instead of going through into detail, because everybody can ride a POV if they want to, what was your general take of Phantom Manor?
Yeah, so it's a different take on the Haunted Mansion. It's a slightly different story. The role of the bride is a little bit different. She's more of like a real person. And then the ending is very different. It's like kind of because it's set in Frontierland, it's kind of going through a ghost Western town and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that part felt the most different. The other thing that jumped out at me, because they have a different person doing the spiel during the ride. It's not the same voice and stuff like that. Some of it's in French. A lot of it is in English, but it's with, a bit of a French accent. And just like, it was like some of the same key lines that we have here, but with like different inflection on different points. And that kind of like jumped out at me. It just threw me off a little bit, like how he would like, say the same line, but just say it differently. And it's like, that's not how I'm used to it. Like, it wasn't bad. It was just different. So that jumped out at me. The same thing, just like everything else was just like plussed a little bit. Like the ride was just smoother, because it was newer technology when they built it and stuff like that. So just little things like that jumped out at me. Otherwise, it was largely the same ride until the end. it felt like there were more like almost like zombie type ghosts versus like really like spiritual ghosts in it. So
Okay.
that threw me off a little bit too. But otherwise, it was largely the same ride. I in some ways I was expecting it to be a little more different than it was. I heard it's like supposed to be scarier and stuff like that. I didn't really get that. It felt like the same kind of level of scariness. One thing, small difference that I did know was in the stretching room, because it does actually lower a little bit like the one in Disneyland. But in the stretching room here, like you just see that top part that has the paintings and like the wallpaper goes up and like the wood below it stays. They actually have like the wallpaper part goes up, but they actually stretch the wooden part too.
Oh, okay.
So it actually felt like the whole room was stretching, which I thought was kind of a neat effect. So that's kind of an example of how they saw something that like, how can we make it slightly different or better and that sort of thing.
Very interesting. So what else did you do before your room was ready?
Yeah, after that we rode the Indiana Jones roller coaster, which was something that my kids were looking forward to. They like roller coasters and they thought an Indiana Jones themed roller coaster sounded cool. I had heard this is not a good roller coaster, that it's very bumpy and very short. It was maybe because my expectations were set low. I actually really enjoyed it. It was kind of fun. It has a loop-de-loop. You're in this mine cart going around, and it was like nothing like amazing, but it was pretty well themed. The queue is themed. They had speakers that were in the jungle and stuff, playing Indiana Jones music and stuff like that. So I thought it was a fun ride. After that, one thing we came apart is they have a seasonal, I guess it's a parade. It's kind of like in between a cavalcade and a parade, but it's called the Million Splashes of Color. And they do it like 4 times a day or something like that. And it's kind of like the cavalcades. It's got like 3 or 4 floats that come down Main Street. They circle the hub and then it comes back. But they stop in the hub and they have like stages around the hub, and all the characters and dancers will get up and like basically get off the floats and go up on the stages. And they did like a 10-minute performance of like various kind of like poppier versions of Disney songs and stuff like that, but tons of choreography, tons of characters. They had like Asha from Wish and Maribel and Snow White were all together. Like I was like, that's an interesting group of characters. And, they had like obviously like Stitch and Mickey and Minnie and Donald, and they're all like going around, and it was a really catchy song and stuff. And it made me think like this would be a cool thing to have at Walt Disney World. I just don't know if they could with the logistics of just how many people like would be in the hub. Like here, it was like, there were people there, but it was only like maybe 2 or 3 people deep all the way around, and everybody's watching and singing and stuff. It was like, it just felt like, I don't know if they could pull it off in Walt Disney World with how many people are, but that was one of those like kind of surprise. Like I knew it was going on. But we really enjoyed it. My oldest especially said she really liked the song and stuff like that. So that was kind of one of those like positive surprises of the trip. After that, we had gotten word that the room was ready. We stopped and got some snacks from Main Street. Had to get the Mickey shaped beignet and other Mickey shaped things. They have a lot of
course,
Mickey shaped foods there. And so we went into our room, got walked over to where it was. I will say it was like maybe not the most convenient room, because how I said there's like the central part to the hotel and there's kind of the 2 wings. We have to go into if you're facing the park, it's the wing on the right where the lobby is. That's the only way in and out of the hotel. So you go in that way. And then where our room was in the other wing. So it's like you had to go up to the 2nd floor to cross all the way over to the other wing. And then we had to go up to the 3rd floor where our room was, and it was down there. So it wasn't like the most convenient thing. It just, I don't know why there couldn't be a door on that side of the ring that like once you had your hotel room
there probably is a door, but it was problematic at some point or something.
Well,
right?
I don't know, maybe. Yeah. Like where we thought it'd be, once you have your key, you could use your key to enter and exit that door or whatever. But we asked and they're like, nope, this is the only way in and out of the hotel. We're like, okay. So it is what it is. We then kind of just unpacked a little bit, rested and relaxed. We went and had drinks they have a nice, like kind of super fancy bar themed there. That has like pages of like really fancy drinks, and a number of non-alcoholic ones for the kids. So we kind of went there and all had a drink and snacks. Then we went and had dinner at a place in the Disney Village, which is like their version of Disney Springs, but obviously much smaller. Then we went back to the room. My son was tired, so he decided to stay in the room. The rest of us went back into the park to watch the fireworks, which is Disney Tales of Magic. Unfortunately, and this happened for the duration of our trip because of the weather, they couldn't use the drones. So we always got the modified version of the show. It's still a pretty cool show. And even without the drones, they also have fountains in front of the castle that they use. And they have lasers that they project things onto the castle along with the projectors and stuff. So there are a lot of effects and stuff that made it a cool show. Without the drones, it's hard for me to fully judge. I would say I'd put it a notch below, from what we saw, a notch below Happily Ever After. But I did like all the different tech, and they had a good combination of music and characters and stuff like that. And then we went back to the room. By that point, it was like almost 11, and we were tired and tried to go to sleep because we were planning on rope dropping the next day. So
yeah, I want to talk about the hotel, right? I think this is a good spot to talk about it. So you mentioned here in the show notes that it was a great size for the 5 of us. Can you explain like the setup of the room?
So the room was like, think of it as like kind of a standard room, but good size room, like bigger than a moderate, like a deluxe size room. But then there's like a whole nother like sort of triangle shape onto it where there was a sofa that folded out to a full size bed. So we basically had the 2 queen beds plus a fold out bed that there was, even when that was open, there was plenty of room to move around. Then there was drawers built into the wall. There was, obviously hanging space and stuff like that. There was like nightstands everywhere. There was plugs everywhere. So it just was like, it felt very convenient. Now there still obviously was only the 1 bathroom, although it did have a separate door for the toilet area and stuff like that. So it's still like a regular hotel room, but it's kind of like it had this extra, like half a room almost added onto it to make it for a family for 5. So I thought for us versus a regular family room, it fit us much better. So it felt like we had a little bit extra space versus a 5 sleeper at Caribbean Beach or whatever, where it's really just like that little fold out bed is kind of tucked into it, but it's a regular size room. This was almost like a room and a half, I guess.
What was your view like? What were you looking at?
Yeah, so we just had a standard view. We didn't pay for a theme park view or anything like that. The way the shape of the wing was, we overlooked the pool. They have an indoor pool there, so it overlooked the pool. So I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this, but like, so if you're walking, towards this wing, the wing splits in 2. We were to the left side, so like kind of the bottom side, further away from the park. And we were facing towards the park, which was good because even though there was like the other wing was there, we could see some fireworks from our room, which was we weren't expecting.
If you're not looking at the shape of the hotel on Google Maps, or if you're not familiar with it, so the main part of the hotel is like the main entrance to the park, right? It goes up. I'm assuming that's where restaurants and lobbies
exactly.
Stuff is. And then there's 2 wings going out from it. Like if north and south were heading Main Street directly to the castle, these are going east and west. And it's basically a narrow like corridor. It's basically like a hallway to the actual building. They're each shaped like a C. And then the opening to the C is facing away from the central location.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're on the west-hand side of the C. And I'm looking at the map right now. Like you said, there is like a pool building, right? That's separate from the hotel. It's not separate from the hotel, but it has different architecture from the hotel. And you were looking directly across. That's actually not a bad room. That I'm thinking, like, if you're not spending the money for the park view.
Exactly.
I think you can't really ask for anything better than that.
Yep. So overall, we were happy with it. Like, obviously I said it was kind of a little bit of an awkward walk to get to it and stuff like that. But obviously that's also feeling a little first world problems when that's what we're complaining about when we have to walk like 5 feet from the park to get to our hotel. It's like, okay, I guess we can walk a little bit to our room.
Can you imagine if they were to build a hotel at the entrance of Magic Kingdom where you have both the train and the monorail running through it in the same building?
That'd be crazy.
That's like insane.
Yeah.
Could they actually do that without like opening up another entrance to the park? Is that logistically possible? I'm thinking.
I mean, they could do it. They could do it the same way here, where the entrance would be on one of the sides, and then you come down, and that's how you get into the park and stuff like that.
I mean, but it takes 2 to 3 years to build.
I know that's the problem. It would be.
How can you do that?
It would be awful for the construction period for sure.
And each room would be $5,000 a night if you want to make money. That's how Disney can do it. Okay, so now we have day 6, daughter's 17th birthday, and you mentioned here in the show notes and the low point of the trip. So everybody's waking up, you're rope dropping, you're ready to go. What happens?
Yeah. So we were so with staying on any of the official Disney hotels, so not just the one we were in, but they have I think 6 hotels there. You have access to early entry to, and both parks are open, and they're both open for an hour early. So you get a full hour beforehand. So we were rope dropping to go to the Studios Park, which is the secondary park there, the one where they're doing all the construction that wasn't quite open yet for our trip. But one of the reasons we wanted a rope drop there is they do have a popular ride that is unique to that park, which is Crush's Coaster, which is obviously a coaster themed to Crush from Finding Nemo. And it's very popular, so we knew we wanted to rope drop that one. We got there so the early entry was 8:30 with the regular park opening at 9:30. We got there like 8:20, so like 10 minutes before the early entry started, and we were way back.
Oh, boy.
Obviously, we did not allow for enough time, but I did the best I could getting people out of the door. It was not easy. When we got to Crush's Coaster, which obviously where almost everybody was going, it was already posted a 50-minute wait. We wound up waiting 66 minutes. When we got off, it was already up to a 100-minute wait. So it's kind of like one of those, like, it sucks that we have to wait this long, but it's only going to get longer. Like, this is the best we're going to do.
Yeah.
I will say the ride was pretty darn fun. You're kind of in the small cars where it's shaped like a turtle shell, and you have 2 seats that face back to back on each other. So it's almost like the configuration of Toy Story Mania, but figure that as like a turtle shell. And when you're going through parts of it, there's like a slow part, like dark ride part, that's I guess a little bit like the Nemo ride at Epcot. But then you go into the like you're riding with the turtles on the EC or whatever it was. And it's an indoor coaster, and the cars spin while you're going through it and stuff like that. So it was a pretty fun ride, and it was actually longer than I thought it was going to be. So I was like, all right, at least I felt like it was something worth it. But like, yeah, it was a long wait.
I mean, there's nothing worse than, at least for us planners, where we're like, we need to get to the park. And like your whole plan for the day is like set back, right? Like you always know in the back of your head, like this could happen, but you're like, oh, now I got to scramble. Right. So,
yeah.
All right. So you had a long wait, but you did the ride. It was what you wanted to do for that park. So you got off, I'm assuming it's like 9:45 or so by the time you get the bearings.
Probably about that. And I will say part of it was agitated. My kids were starting to get on each other's nerves quite a bit, especially my son bothering my girls. He does have ADHD, but when he's on his medicine, he doesn't eat, and he wanted to eat, so he doesn't like to be on his medicine. We maybe should have forced it. He was really like annoying them a lot. And it got to the point that my younger daughter basically shut down. Like that's how she responds sometimes, to the point where we were in the queue and she was I had to literally pick her. Like when the line moved, I had to pick her up to move her to like the next spot. So that's where we're already at like 9 a.m.
Sounds like my family.
Yeah. So it's
at the dinner table every night.
So it was kind of getting off to a rough start. The next thing we had planned was there were a couple character meets we wanted to do. A number of the character meets there actually use virtual queues. And one of them is over in the Avengers area where you can pick to either meet an Avenger or Spider-Man. So we were able to get one of the virtual queue spots for meeting Spider-Man. That's what my older daughter picked of the two. So we went over to meet Spider-Man, and it's nice that it's a virtual queue, so you don't have to wait hours, because character meets over there are very popular. Some of the longest lines we saw were for character meets. One of the reasons, though, they're long is the characters spend time with you. It's not just like go in, have a hug, get a picture, and move on. Really? So they actually, not like hours or anything like that, but they spend a little bit of time with each person, so that I think that's why people like doing them, and then it makes the lines even longer and that sort of thing. So it was fun. Like we got to meet Spider-Man, and he was like teaching us like different poses and do we know how to do things and what he was learning and practicing and his workouts and stuff like that. So you got a lot of fun poses and a lot of photos and stuff like that. They do have like PhotoPass there, but the other cast member just took my phone and took our pictures and stuff like that. So we got a lot of photos like that. And then there was the one thing that this park is known for is it does have a number of good shows. And one of them that I wanted to see was Mickey and the Magician. And my older daughter also wanted to see that one. So that one we went to do. We got there 40 minutes before the show started, and we were already like way back of the line to get in, 40 minutes to get in. And at
Is
this
this
point,
just like a capacity issue for the park, and that's why they're open up Frozen Adventure? There's just like nothing to do in this park.
I think it's part of that, and I don't know. It's like I thought this was going to be a slower. Usually, it's the summer is the busier time. February's supposed to be kind of slow. It didn't seem like it, so I don't know if it's like just more people are showing up. I mean, they did just have like record earnings and stuff like that for the park, so I think it's just more people are coming. So,
do you think it's just because less international travelers are going to Florida?
It might be part of
Europe
that
instead.
Yeah, it might be that. Yeah, I mean, I know for a while the dollar was doing well, so it was cheaper for us to go over there, and then like you said, less people from there are coming over here, maybe. So it's just more people are like, well, we're not going to Florida, so let's just go to Paris or something.
Generally speaking, across your 3 days at the park, what would you compare the crowds to in Florida? Is it like a busy, holiday season? Is it a slow summer season? Like where do you feel
it was interesting because it didn't feel like the walkways and stuff like that were as crowded as it gets at Florida for a fairly moderately busy day. Even there, even a moderately busy day, it seems like you can have to like dodge through people in certain spots and stuff like that. And like I said, even for like the parades and the fireworks weren't as bad. Like, so maybe it is a capacity issue that the big rides just felt like, I mean, almost every day, all the big rides were like an hour long posted wait.
So it's like Epic then.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit like that. But the show is really good. It was definitely one of the better shows I've seen. It was interesting because Mickey spoke French in the whole movie, but then like a lot of the other characters, the magician and stuff like that, spoke English. And obviously all the songs they were singing were in English and stuff like that. So it was a lot of different characters visited, whether it was Elsa.
Is this like a screen type of thing? Is there like
no? It's all stage work, so it's like a kind of a Broadway show type thing. It was about a half hour long.
Okay.
And so it's
worth the wait.
I think it was worth the wait. I think it was really good. I'm glad we saw it. My daughter really thought it was good. My older daughter.
Excellent.
So I think that was great. My younger daughter, the one who had shut down, she took a nap during this, which I think was very good and needed.
Okay,
I think she seemed to be in a better mood after that. So I think that helped. And then after the show, it was pretty much already time for lunch. So as you can tell, we didn't get a lot done. We did one ride, one character meet, and one show. And it was time for lunch, which was we were doing for my daughter's birthday. Her one request was that she wanted to eat like a rat. So we went to Bistro Chez Remy, which is supposed to be set up as Remy's restaurant that he put together at the end of the movie Ratatouille. And so when you enter the restaurant first, it looks like a regular restaurant and like normal human size. But as you go into the dining room, it changes and you can see the tiles on the floor are the same tiles, but they become bigger because you're becoming smaller as you're becoming rat sized. Cool. And like all the tables and stuff are set up like the table we were at, the chairs were made to look like they were made out of corks from champagne bottles, and like they look like little umbrellas above us that were like the tiki umbrellas you'd have in your drinks and stuff like that. And yeah, so it was everything my daughter wanted it to be as far as like setting and stuff like that. I thought the food I got was really good. My wife really liked her food. My daughter wasn't crazy about some of it. She liked, some she didn't. We did also get her the birthday cake you can get, like the Mickey shaped birthday cake. And that was really good. So we're glad we got that. Overall, it was a really cool experience. And all I kept thinking the whole time was I don't understand why they didn't build this in Epcot. This would have made them so much money, just with how in
There's
demand
always
it would
room
be
for
and
more.
stuff like. Yeah.
I mean, why not? I mean, I could see them converting the creperie to like a restaurant because there's some room back there that they could do something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There must be a reason why. I mean, I know the main restaurants are like third party and stuff like that. So there's probably some like legal reasons why they couldn't do it or something like that. But it was a really good experience. One thing it came up a couple times is obviously it's in France, so there's wine and everything like that everywhere. But on the menus, a lot of times they were set up as like prefixes and you could do wine pairings with them. So like my wife did the wine pairing with it. You think they would have it like down cold, but like we kept having to ask like, oh, you didn't bring the wine out yet for the pairing with this and stuff like I don't, and it happened a couple places. I'm like, this is at like almost every of the sit down restaurants have this. You think they would have it really down. So I don't know if we just had bad luck or whatever, but It happened a couple times. That was
Or maybe not a lot of people order the wine pairings and they're not used to it.
maybe, I don't know. Maybe they were like, it was on all the menus though. I don't know.
I don't know. know. Yeah, it seems like they should be able. All right, so we're halfway through your day.
Yeah.
You're on a couple different things, and it seems like you had a really good experience at the moon. How are you, sir, feeling? Like we know how your kids are feeling. I have no idea. I have no idea how your wife is doing and how you are doing.
Yeah. So my wife was doing. My wife was doing okay. She was getting a little tired because she was dealing with my younger daughter and all that sort of thing. I think after lunch we were doing a little bit better though. I was doing a little bit better, but I was still kind of like, it was hitting me. I was like, we really haven't gotten that much done, and the day's like half over. Like, what's going on?
So you're feeling the urgency.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel the urgency a little bit of like, we need to start getting some more things done. They have with their lightning lane. They call it Premier Pass. We decided we weren't going to get that because it's pretty expensive. So it's just kind of like, well, we have to wait on these lines. We're not getting that much done. Blah blah blah. At this point after lunch, we decided to split up because people wanted to do different things. My wife took the girls. They went over to the Avengers area and did the Avengers coaster that's there, which is an overlay of Rock and Roller Coaster. And my son and I did some the smaller rides. He wanted to do the Cars road trip ride, which I kind of wanted to do as well, just because I heard how bad it is. I
don't even know what this is.
It is definitely the worst Disney attraction I've ever been on. It is. It was a modified version of the studio tram tour that used to be in there because it used to be set up like the studios. So it still had the Catastrophe Canyon part, except they like put googly eyes on the truck there to make it look Cars-like. And all you do is you ride out in a tram to that, and then you ride back. And on the way, the whole idea is that it's supposed to be a road trip, and you go to see these like roadside attractions. So the first one you see is like the largest lug nut in the world. Okay, fine, whatever.
Okay.
Then you start seeing billboards for the other attractions, but you never actually see the other attractions. It's just the billboards for them. And then in the tram, there's screens that have two of the cars talking about other attractions. And they're like, oh yeah, I went to that one and it was amazing. Okay. But you never actually get to see anything. It just talks about things that you could see if you like did something else. It was like, it was really bad.
Images, and I'm just like, what kind? This is like a leftover ride that they throw into this park.
Exactly. That's what it was. So it's kind of one of those, like, it's so bad you have to do it type things, but it was really, and just to give you an idea of how crowded it was this weekend, later on another day, we were checking wait times. This ride, which it has big capacity because they had trams coming. Worst ride I've ever been on. It had a 70-minute wait, 70. Like, so just to give you an idea of wait times. After that, I took my son. The girls didn't want to take a break. My son was up for taking a break. The weather was kind of getting to us. We took a break. I was like, I'm taking a shower. I'm going to like refresh up. Let's rest up and stuff like that. And then
hold on a second. Hold on. What is it like? Like you're having a morning, you need a break. What is it like to just be able to walk out of the park and go like 20 feet to your hotel, essentially?
That it is really nice. I mean, we've been fortunate enough we were able to do it at Epic Universe last year with staying at Helios, and now we're doing it at this one. I don't know if I can ever go back to hotels that aren't 10 feet.
Well, I mean, like it's got to be different because like at Helios it's just you and your wife, right?
Yeah.
Like you two of you can just relax, but you've got children that you have to deal with that you can just like, all right, we're going back, but you're not wasting like a 20-minute bus ride.
Exactly. I mean, that's what the really nice part is, that you could, and that's why we did it a number of times. We're like, well, let's just stop back at the room for a little bit. And it's like, cause it's right there. You don't have to wait for a bus or anything like that. It's super convenient. That's probably one of the best aspects of this hotel. I mean, it was a really nice hotel as well. But yeah, being able to kind of just go back and be like, all right, we're going back to the hotel, and it's literally a 5-minute walk. It's not like a big thing. So it was really nice.
You wrote in the show notes, I have never been so miserable in a Disney park. And it was this entire trip a mistake or waste of money? So like, it's what, like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon at this point?
Yeah,
something like
it was
that.
about 3:30. But when we went back into the park, we went to the main park. My son wanted to do Autopia. I was just kind of like fed up with him, fed up with everything. It was raining a lot. I'm cold and wet, and I'm standing in line, a 35-minute line for Autopia, which is their version of the Speedway. And my son is just like hyper about it. He won't stop like yapping, and like he's not picking up on any social cues of like, I don't want to engage you right now. Like, and it was just kind of one of those, where I was sitting there, like, we haven't gotten on like any rides. The trip's almost like a third over at this point. Was it a mistake to like come to Paris in February, like with how bad the weather was? And like, are we wasting all this money being here? So like I said, it just hit me at that moment. Everything kind of crumbled on top of me I guess at that point. And like, I was sitting there saying like, I don't think I've ever been this miserable when I'm in a Disney park. So
like even like the vibes and the music and everything else was just like, you're dealing with grumpy children, you're dealing with rain, and you're not doing the vacation you want to do.
100%. Right? It was exactly not.
You're think allowed to have a selfish moment. You're allowed.
Yeah. I think it just hit me that I knew like it was going to be like not the best weather and that sort of thing, but it was worse than I thought it would be. And I was thinking like, okay, it's going to be bad weather. It's going to be cold, but at least there won't be long lines because nobody's coming now. But then there were hour-long waits. And I'm kind of like, what are we doing? Like, was this whole idea of coming here a mistake? Like, because I thought, I wasn't counting on bad weather and hour-long waits for everything.
I mean, I felt this way, not to the degree because we were not international going to a brand new location. Like last year in summer, I'm like, it is now, I knew it was going to be hot, but I didn't know it was going to be 118 degrees hot, right? Yeah. Like I kind of had like the opposite. I'm frying rather than drowning, right? And everybody's miserable. I'm not doing the things that I wanted to do type of thing. So I get that. And, you know, I've known you for 6 years at this point. Like, I understand, like, I've got these plans. I got these set expectations. This is not like a normal Disney vacation where like I've been here lots of times. If I don't get to this, I'm okay. But like you want the new experiences. You want to explore. You want to take things that now I understand why you're going down to Epcot on your own or whatever. You just want to be able to have like Disney on your own terms for a little bit. You need a little getaway from, you need a vacation away from the vacation.
Exactly.
So, okay, it sounds like you did Autopia with your son, and then, you started going off to doing like pirates and stuff like that. So I want to know two things here.
Yeah.
Your opinion on a pirates, because every pirate is different. Pirate rides is different around the world. And you're now with your daughter. So like, how did that like family rearrange itself?
So we met up together. We were going to go on Snow White, but then it went down. So then they had done Pirates while we were doing Autopia, but then Pirates was still low. Wait time. It was like 15 minutes or something like that. So, cause it's so high capacity. And my wife was like, let's just do it again. I know you wanted to do it. It's got a low wait. Let's go do it. Their Pirates is awesome. It's like, it's not totally different. It's not like Shanghai's version or something like that, but it's just like they took everything that worked with Pirates and plussed it. Like even the load area makes you feel like you're outside. They have like palm trees inside and stuff like that. You go past you go past a restaurant like you do at Disneyland. It's a different restaurant. It's the same type of thing where you start off like that. They have so many cool effects. The animatronics look really well. They have two pirates that are sword fighting and stuff like that. And they have just the drops are set up like really well. I don't know, just the way they did this, the city, it like looks better with the fire effects and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, it's like our version, but just plussed. It's just improved on what it was. So
right. I mean, it's not built in the late 60s, early 70s, or early 70s. It's
built in the early 90s.
90s.
Late it was like 92 it opened. So
yeah.
So
I guess they were building a couple years before that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that was great. That started to improve my mood because I really enjoyed that ride. Then we were trying to figure out what to do for food. Outside of Small World, they had a lot of like, it almost looked like a winter village, like a Christmas village type setup with these little booths. So we got like crepes and food, and my wife and I got mulled wine, and it was a nice experience and that sort of thing. There weren't maybe I'll talk about food here a little bit overall. They have some nice sit-down restaurants, which we enjoyed doing a couple of. They have a lot of like booths and food trucks and stuff like that. The like quick service options that are inside are kind of like just burgers and stuff like that. And there's not a lot of them. They kind of count on these booths and food trucks and stuff, which is great when the weather's good. But when it's like cold and rainy, you don't want to really be out at a high table, like having your dinner and stuff like that. Yeah. So this worked. The rain wasn't too bad right now. And it was still, I guess, early enough in the trip that we did. So we enjoyed the dinner. It was kind of quick and we got stuff. My wife took the younger kids back to the room at that point. They were thinking they might go swimming. They wound up just kind of resting and calling it a day. I went off with my older daughter, who was also kind of feeling like it was her birthday and the other two are really being annoying and it wasn't really working out how everything you wanted. We went over to the Studios Park. We did both of the Avengers rides. They have the roller coaster, which is an overlay of a rock and roller coaster, but they have like screens. It looks totally different. It isn't just a light overlay. Like it's almost like feels like a completely different ride. And then they have the Spider-Man web shooter ride, which we did. And actually when we came out of the first ride, there was like a show going on with like Wanda and Doctor Strange were battling Agatha Harkness up on top of the building and stuff. So it was kind of like a fun thing to just walk into. And I think we just had a nice time one-on-one. I think we both needed kind of that break at that point.
I get the sense that like your oldest daughter is turning into like the pro Disney fan of all three of your kids at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like you listening to your daughter, or you describing your daughter, meeting your daughter years ago till now, it seems like she's like, growing up in your footsteps. So to speak.
She definitely has, I think, the most similar to me. Like our style, our takes on Disney are similar, like on how to do the parks and stuff are similar. So it was good to have some one-on-one time with her. It was her birthday. I think also we were like, it's your birthday. What do you want to do? And I think she was feeling, she's like, I don't want to make the decisions for everyone, so she was feeling like the pressure of that, but we just wanted to make sure we were doing things she wanted to do. So I think at this point it was kind of like, well, let's do this. It was just easier when it was just the two of us. So that kind of very much salvaged the day and had a really nice time.
My oldest daughter is kind of like, I mean, when she's comfortable, she starts wanting to take charge. That's the only difference between our daughters. But like my daughter gets not only the excitement of just, we need to do rides, get things done. We're here. We need to get things done. But she also gets like the nostalgia and like the vibes from there. Mm-hmm. Whereas my son is like, let's do rides. But he doesn't get like the feels behind all this stuff. At least not yet. I mean, he's just turned 11. So maybe that comes with being an 11-year-old boy versus, a teenage girl. I don't know. But my one thing is, okay, you're now at the other park. You've done a couple rides. Are you now at the end of the night at this point? Or
at this point it was like that park closes at 9. And by the time we got off the Spider-Man ride, it was after 9. So we left that park and just went back to the room and got ready. We were able to see some of the fireworks from our room, but really just kind of called it a night.
So let me ask you this. So this is now your first full day at Disneyland Paris. Not a great day, just the kids and the weather and stuff like that. Were you able to like explore the park even as you're kind of walking around? Were you like just ping-ponging from rides, or were you at least able to kind of stroll and kind of get a feel of the park? Or did you do that the day before?
I mean, I think the day before was more focused on that and wanting to do that like purposely. There were definitely times on day 2 when we were doing that as well, like walking around, especially we spent a bit of time walking through Fantasyland and taking that in a little bit more. We did also get into what they call it Discoveryland, their Tomorrowland. We were in there a little bit too. The first night I forgot to mention, we did, when we went back in before the fireworks, we did Hyperspace Mountain, which is their Space Mountain, but it had a Star Wars overlay. Their Space Mountain is kind of crazy. You load outside and it shoots you up the outside of the mountain, and then you go into it, and it's got loop-de-loops and corkscrews and stuff like that, and it's got all Star Wars overlays, so you're like spinning around while lasers are shooting around you and stuff like that. Like it's kind of nutso. So it's pretty cool though. So we did that one night. I forgot to mention that too.
Yeah, I from your description, I mean, I know what you did and everything else, and I know the way you tour parks. I don't want to make it sound like you just went from ride to ride, but like I wanted to make sure that you were able to explain that like you are still like enjoying the parks, or at least seeing them. You're not like blinders, like ride.
No, we're definitely trying to take it in, and you see like, oh, there's a character over there and things like that. We're definitely not just rushing from ride to ride, but we maybe weren't as purposeful looking around as some other times.
Yeah. All right. So day 7, your last day at the full day.
Yes, our last full day at the park. We're starting at the main park. The last kind of big must-do that we hadn't gotten to yet was Big Thunder Mountain, which their version is quite unique. So that was going to be like kind of our, like, we didn't get there pre-rope drop, but we got there like during the early entry and that sort of thing. And we were like, well, we'll just wait online, whatever it is, it'll still be better than it'll be later in the day. Unfortunately, it was down, which again was putting a little bit more pressure on me. It's like, okay, it's like second like last day, and this is kind of our must do. They said they thought it would be up around 11, but they couldn't promise. It turned out that that's about when it did come up. So we started doing other things. We did Hyperspace Mountain again. They have a Nautilus walkthrough from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. We're just kind of doing like little things. And then we were like, well, let's go get some food because we hadn't really had breakfast. Breakfast options there are very limited. So later in the day, we got a little bit more food. And then, of course, as we're like checking the app, Big Thunder Mountain comes back up. And of course, it's right when my wife is in the bathroom where I'm like, we got to rush over there. It's like a 5-minute wait, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, gets out of the bathroom. We finally make it over there and it's already up to a 40-minute wait or 50-minute wait, something like that. So we just get in line. After about 20 minutes to 30 minutes, it goes down again. Oh. We're like, what do we do? Do we wait? Do we go? Because we had a lunch reservation coming up. We decided to like, well, we'll just wait until we have to leave to get to lunch. So it was down for about 40 minutes and then it came back up. And about 10 minutes after it was up, we got on it. So overall, we waited about an hour and 20 minutes to get on it. But we did get on it, and it is fantastic. It is one of the best Disney rides.
It sounds like it was worth it at the wait.
It was definitely worth it. For those of you that don't know what it is, their Big Thunder Mountain is on the island in the middle of their Rivers of America in Frontierland. So where Tom Sawyer Island is or whatever, they have Big Thunder Mountain. You load on shore though, and it kind of goes around for a little bit, and then it goes into a tunnel where you're going under the river to get up to the mountain. And I thought it was just going to be like, you just go under and up. There's like currents and loops and not loops, but like, like turns and twists and stuff like under the ground in the dark before you pop up and you're kind of doing one of the first like hills and you're going around and then it's got multiple hills. It's got the firework effect towards the end. And then you go dive back down underneath and it's doing more curves and stuff like that on the way back. And then you pop up and then it's done. Like I'm probably not doing a good job describing it all, but it's like really, again, they just took a great ride and plussed it. So it's definitely the best version of Big Thunder we'd ever been on. After that, it was time to go to lunch, which was the meal I was most looking forward to. We were eating at Walt's, an American restaurant. This is on Main Street. It's on the second story of one of the buildings. And as is in the name, it is named after Walt Disney. The entranceway is all full of tons of photos of Walt and his family and stuff like that. And then you go upstairs and each of there's 5 rooms to the restaurant. They're each themed to a different land in Disneyland. We were seated in the room that was Fantasyland, and it has a lot of like concept art and maquettes and things like that, but it's also just stylized to kind of match that area. All while you're overlooking Main Street. And if you time it right, you could actually see the parades going by and stuff like that. But, and then the menu is all themed to either food that Walt ate or like his favorites, or like somehow had some connection to Walt. And we all thought the food was really good. Yeah, I honestly, no complaints. It was everything I hoped it would be and probably a little bit more. And it was another one that I was sitting there going, like every Disney park should have a restaurant.
I was going to ask you, like, do we need this at Main Street? It sounds like absolutely.
Yeah,
it sounds like a cross between like Steakhouse 71, but like in a theme park and built for it. Because I'm looking at the inside is gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. The only other hiccup we had with this was the same thing. Both my wife and I did the wine pairings. They never brought our the one that was supposed to go with dessert. We had finished desserts and stuff and we mentioned it and they were like, oh, I forgot to bring that to you. I was like, well, one of the things they had there is you could buy flutes of champagne to go. We were going to do that. So I was like, well, can you just we're going to buy those flutes and stuff. Can you just put the champagne that we're supposed to have with dessert in those flutes? We'll buy them and go. They just did that and gave us the flutes, I guess to kind of make up for not giving it us in time. So
that's nice.
It was something we were thinking of buying anyway. We didn't have to buy. And then we were able to go outside and we were finally able to get our photo of us having champagne on Main Street.
It's excellent.
Yeah. So that was something we were excited for. And then after that, we just kind of did a lot of different rides that we hadn't gotten to. Peter, of course, wanted to do Autopia again. This is actually one time where we split up, and I know we've talked about this before. We let the kids go off on their own. My son went to Autopia by himself. The girls went and did, I forget what they did. They did, I know they did the canal boats at some point or something. They were doing a couple, I think they did Hyperspace Mountain again. But my wife and I, because she was willing to go with me on this, was the other character I wanted to meet was Phantom Mickey. So he meets over by Phantom Manor, and it's basically just Mickey Mouse, but he's in an outfit that's appropriate, like kind of Haunted Mansion-esque. So we had to wait about 40 minutes to meet him, but we did. But he was really nice. He liked my Mickey shirt and stuff like that. So I was really happy we did that. Then we met up afterwards, and we started Divided and Conquered again. Judy took the two younger ones off to do things. My daughter wanted to see more of the shows. They had a celebration of the Lion King, I think it's called. So it's like their Lion King show. It's more like a Broadway. It's basically just singing all the songs, but from the Broadway show. So it has some of the songs that are in the Broadway show, not in the movie. But it's done with really talented people, really cool set design, some acrobatics and stuff like that, but not to the extent as the Festival of the Lion King at Animal Kingdom has. It's more about the singing, but they had some really talented people, and we both really enjoyed that. It's just another one. It's like 30-minute show of like super talented people that's just included with your park ticket and stuff like that. So that was great. I think we split up again. We went over to like studios to do the Avengers rides again, and my daughter wanted to do some of the Toy Story rides, but they were down, and it was kind of a little bit of convoluted, but we're getting on a lot of things and just redoing things that we liked and stuff like that. We struggled again with what to do for dinner because, again, there's like not a lot of quick service options, and the weather was getting like worse, so we definitely didn't want to go to like an outdoor booth or whatever. We actually eventually settled on, because we were somewhat intrigued about seeing what McDonald's was like in France. And they just literally the day before opened the new McDonald's at the Disney Village. That was like the biggest one in the world or something like that. So we're like, all right, fine. We'll just go do that. That should be easy. We'll get over there. The line was like 100 people out the door. I'm like,
no kidding.
And it's set up. It's supposed to have like multiple like kitchens and handle so many people at a time. And it still was like bombarded with people. So we're like, we're not waiting like an hour to eat at McDonald's. No. So then we just picked up to-go food from like a stand and like ate it back in the room and that sort of thing. So that's one thing we did struggle a little bit with it, was some of the food options and stuff, like if you didn't have a table service meal. And we even looked at some of the other table service options, and they looked good to me and my wife, but they were like more themed. So like the pirate one, it was like Caribbean food. And like at least two of the kids were like, I don't see anything on that menu I want to eat, like that type of thing. So it was like we struggled with like finding places that everybody liked. So after that, we spent a little time back at the room, as I said, and did some packing because we had to leave the next day. Then my wife and my oldest, the two younger ones, wanted to stay in the room. We went to see the fireworks, hoping that the drones would work that day. Again, they did not. So then we decided to actually not stay for the fireworks. We just went back to the room and finished packing and tried to get to bed to get some rest because we had our last day at the park and then had to head to the airport.
That seemed like you had a much better, that's like a typical like Disney World vacation day. And I like how you were able to split up and everybody got to do what they wanted, and you weren't all like up each other's rear end, like annoying each other. So you're able to kind of just
I think we kind of finding our vibe a little bit, and we just like we found splitting up definitely helped a lot more, and just like we were able to get on some more things that like either just had short waits or just from splitting up it was work. And like there were some challenges and stuff like that, but it felt much more like a normal Disney day, that sort of thing.
So the next day was your travel home day, but you still went to the parks.
Yes, so we didn't have to leave until about 2:00. We were, so we had that time in the morning. Again, the luggage service here is great because all we do is once we're ready to go, we just call down and say, hey, we're ready to leave. We leave our bags in the room. After we go off to the parks, they come up and get our luggage out of the room and bring it down to Bell Services. So we don't even have to carry it downstairs. We just go right to the room.
Do you have to tip Bell Services in Paris? Because I know tipping culture is different.
Yeah, tipping culture is different. We did wind up tipping at the end just because it felt like they were so helpful. And we wound up doing. They have a bus service that Disney runs. That's I guess kind of like Magical Express, except you have to pay for it. But that would go right to the airport. So rather than like lugging luggage at the end, especially when we had all the souvenirs and stuff like that, end of the trip, let's just get the bus. They like brought the bags out, literally put them on the bus. Like we didn't have to touch them or anything. So I gave them like €5 or something like that, which I think was acceptable. I don't know, but I know it seemed like there are some things where you can tip, but it seems much more optional over there. But like Bell Service, like he didn't like push back, like he accepted it right away, but he was also like thankful for it. So I think it's kind of like you can tip, but you don't have to type thing.
So what did you do? Like, what was your target? Like you only had a couple hours, or at least 5 or 6 hours, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
So what we decided to do, there was one ride that we hadn't done yet that I wanted to do. I wanted to try their version of Tower of Terror. It always had like a crazy long line. So I was like, well, my wife was interested in doing it too. So we did that while the 3 kids went off and did some of the Toy Story rides. My youngest really wanted to do that parachute drop one and stuff like that. So they were doing that.
Okay.
While we went for Tower of Terror. It was still like a 40-minute wait, even like first thing in the morning. But we decided to do it anyway. It was an interesting version. I think it's more like what it was at Disneyland, where you basically just board the elevators and you're in the shaft right away. Right. It doesn't do the part where you go up and go out. But hearing some of the characters talk, and I don't know if it's just because they were talking in French, but it sounded creepier than like the other version.
Yeah, okay.
And they seemed to really focus on the little girl. So like you'd like go up and down and then you'd stop in one spot and like you'd see her materialize and she would be like, whatever you do, don't scream. And then it drops you right away and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. It was fun. It was a little bit different. It was basically the same ride, but it was, a little different compared to the version we're used to. We met up and then we decided to go over to the main park and do the railroad, which we hadn't done yet. We did the full loop of that. They have some scenes where you see dioramas and stuff and other parts where you can actually see into the rides. You can see into Pirates of the Caribbean at one point, for example. So that was kind of neat. And then basically we're looking at lines. Everything was super long. And it's kind of like, all right, I don't even know if we have time to wait on one of these rides. I just sucked it up and said, okay, they have the Premier Pass. You can either get the Ultimate, which gets you onto every ride, or you can buy it like per ride if you just want to get on one ride. So I was like, all right, if we can pick a ride, we can all do one and I'll pay for the Premier Pass for us to get on something.
What's the cost of that? Is it comparable to like a single pass?
So it's similar to that. It varies by ride. Some are as cheap as like €5 because it's like almost every ride, or some of them are more. We agreed to do, and kind of everyone wanted to do Big Thunder again. So we did that. That was €16 a person to do. I did the conversion.
I believe, is the conversion like for every euro it's $1.30?
It's like $1.20.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so I did the math. So for all of us to do it, it cost me $94 US dollars. So
$20 a piece, basically.
Yeah. So it's like we limit ourselves to do it that once. At the end, I was like, let's just do one rather than waiting on long lines. Let's do something we want. Just for example, though, I did look up what the Ultimate version would have been if we wanted it on one of our days. Yeah. I did the conversion. It would have cost the family, or me, for the whole family to have it for one day would have been $972. So yeah,
I mean that's Premier Pass in Disney World, basically.
Yeah, it's roughly Premier. Yeah, it was like €135 a person. So yeah,
I'm already thinking about. I mean, not to take away from your trip, but like we're already thinking about like what kind of new experiences we want to do for our upcoming trip, and we were looking at the Wild Africa trek, which is $260 per person. I'm like, Cindy, that's like $1,300 for our family, but it's like, it is a 3-hour event. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, it's a lot. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Yeah. That's a lot. I mean, that's not too bad of like spending $100 to get on one last ride without having to kind of wait through it.
We decided it was worth it to like, okay, we'll do, and that was the only one we did the whole trip. So we're like, okay, we'll do one. Then we did a little souvenir shopping. We wanted to get an ornament and stuff like that. And they got some last minute Mickey shaped food. And then headed back to the hotel and got on the bus. Like I said, they had the bus that takes us right to the airport. We got on the airport and had the trip home. That was super smooth and easy. Really, we flew French B. I don't think I mentioned that, which is kind of like a discount airline, like low cost airline, but we did stay in their premium economy part. So it's kind of everything was included, and it had a slightly bigger seat and stuff like that. It wasn't like lie flat or anything, but it was a little bit nicer. Got back to the airport, got to the shuttle, and got home. We were home at about 10:30 that night, but keep in mind that's with the 6-hour time change. So it was really like 4:30 in the morning for us. So it was a long day. That was actually, I forgot to mention, this was my birthday. So my daughter and I are 2 days apart. So it's funny. We were up like right the night before we got to like just about midnight. So my wife was like, "Oh, it's your birthday. Happy birthday." And then we had the whole day, but with the time change, my birthday was like 30 hours long. So I was like, that was the longest birthday ever. Like,
yeah, nice. And then you came home to 2 feet of snow.
It was funny. We were on the like in line to get on the airplane and stuff like that. And we're getting all the alerts for like what the storm predictions are. And everyone obviously is from, not everyone, but the people around us were from the New York. I think they were from Connecticut or whatever. So everyone's like, oh my God, what are we getting home to? But at least we were home the day before, so it didn't impact our travel.
Yeah.
But yes, it was not necessarily the thing I wanted to come home to. So yeah.
No. All right, I want to go over as we wrap this up here. It sounds like a fantastic trip. So there's a couple things that I wanted to kind of get a general view. We kind of talked about the hotel. I'm assuming most of the only negatives were just having to kind of go up and around and getting.
That was really the only negative. I'd say the only other thing, and it seems similar to like deluxe hotels in the US, is they didn't really have a quick service food option or even like a coffee shop or anything. Like they had the like the lounge and the bar, and then they had a number of like really fancy restaurants, but that was it. They didn't have like a quick service.
Nothing simple.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how about, it seems like a lot of people were very helpful. Was there a major difference between the cast members in Paris versus, let's say, in Orlando?
Yeah, I did find a difference. I would say everyone we spoke to, like when you were interacting with them, was super friendly, just like any other cast member. But it felt like when you just saw them around, they weren't as engaged. Like it feels like when you're in Walt Disney World, you just see a cast member, they're like, "Hi, how are you?" Like super friendly. They didn't have a smile on their face if they weren't like engaging with you. And we also saw like a number of them will like travel around in a pack and like not interacting with guests and stuff. So it didn't seem like the same level of, I don't know, cast member magic or whatever you want to put it as Walt Disney World. But when you were interacting with them, they were super friendly and stuff. There wasn't any like problems with that. You just like, if you weren't interacting with them, it didn't feel the same as.
Gotcha. What about guest comparison? Like, you get tourists from all over the place in Disney World. It's the most visited theme park in the world. What's the difference is Paris more of like a local place? Like what were the vibes?
I think there's a lot of people visiting because we did see a lot of people from all over, from different cultures and stuff like that. I think there are a lot of Europeans, obviously a lot of locals that would just come out for the day. I think there might've been some school breaks in the UK as well, because we did see a lot of people from the UK. Overall, I would say the guests were worse than in Florida.
Really? In what way?
They just seemed very like, my wife put it the best way. It's a lot of main character energy, that they were like, I want to get from here to there and I'm going that way. And if you're in my way, I don't care. I will go through you. I will, if I could move, 1 degree to the left and avoid you, I will not do that. That's how everybody was. And like when you're in the queue, like personal space is just different, I guess. Like you're going in a queue, they would bump me every single step. And it wasn't like once, it was like all the time. And like, I don't know, it just felt very like kind of the bad guests, like kind of rude guests or whatever. Like at Walt Disney World, it was just like, if there was 20% at Walt Disney World, it was like 60% here.
Oh man.
So it was like I said, it wasn't like they were like yelling or cursing or rude that way. It just, I feel like main character energy was the best way. Like they were going to do what they were going to do. And if that meant, like, we saw one family that there was a walkway that was maybe 12 feet wide. They used 8 feet of it because they were like, we're going to set up camp and I'm going to give my kids a snack and they're going to sit on the ground and take up this room. And because that's what we're going to do. And if that inconveniences everybody else, oh, well. Like that's kind of the attitude it felt like. Also, there's a lot of smoking and vaping, and there's supposed to be designated areas. Nobody follows it. So you're in the queues, you're in line, you're just walking around, and there's cigarette smoke everywhere and stuff like that. So that's not ideal.
So of all this, you hit up all of your tier one attractions, Big Thunder, Phantom Manor, and Crush's Coaster. Did anything disappoint or not live up to expectations? It seems like everything was just like better than you would thought it would be.
Yeah. I would say of those three, it didn't disappoint because I really enjoyed Phantom Manor. It just wasn't as different as I was thinking it might be. But it didn't disappoint. It just, the other two, I think, exceeded expectations.
So I guess the last question would be from me was, you wrote this, but I was going to ask this anyway, is would you go again? Is it different enough? Was it an awesome adventure? So like if we were to just do this, I am only going to Disneyland Paris without like really all the culture and the food and everything else that we saw prior to that. Is it enough where like I should prioritize going to Paris one day?
So I don't think it's enough to go for a trip just for this. I think it was the way we did it, I think was great. Spending like 4 days in the city and 3 nights at Disneyland Paris, I think was a good mix of stuff. And I would definitely recommend that to people. I think the park is different enough that it's worth doing. But I wouldn't travel to, across the Atlantic just to go to it.
Okay.
And I would say, I would, at this point, I would say obviously wait until they open up the rest of the stuff at the second park. And I would say I would not go in February. I would definitely prioritize. I thought, yes, the weather's not going to be as good, but at least the lines will be short. And since that wasn't the case, I would just pick when there's going to be better weather.
So then my question would be would you have done anything different other than like you can't really choose when your family can go on vacation because of school and everything else. So let's ignore February for a point. Was there anything that you would have done differently? Different hotel, different park strategy? Would you go for less days, more days? What do you think?
I don't know. I think it worked out pretty well. We wound up at the end of the day getting on everything we wanted, most things multiple times. Maybe I would have done more researching for food options because it felt like a lot of times we were like scrambling for food.
That's the one lesson I've learned from my family is I need to give my family two options. Like we're going to research, like, okay, everybody gets to pick something that they want to do, but like, we know where we're going to eat because I'm not wasting time. Like, oh, where are we going to go to eat? And we'll start walking all over the place. So that's one thing I've learned a long time ago with any excursion. Like, are we going 4 towns over to do a thing? Where are we going to eat? Like it's that or Disney World. Like it's everywhere and everything in between.
So I think I would have done that differently. I mean, I had some ideas of things I wanted, but it was more like specific snacks and food items, let alone I should have done a little bit more about like what the actual quick service or like options were. So I was more prepared to answer those questions.
You started off on day one kind of panicking that you weren't getting enough done. By the time you were on the bus to the airport, were you satisfied with the level of entertainment and things that you did?
Yeah, I was satisfied with what we got done. At the end of the day, like I said, I think finishing up with what we did, even on that first full day, we got a few more things in. And then that second full day, we really did get a lot done despite the wait times. We didn't get to everything. There were a lot of little rides we didn't get to. I mean, we did most of Fantasyland, but we didn't do like Dumbo and stuff like that. But we did do Small World and Pinocchio and stuff like that. So I was satisfied with what we got. I think it wasn't like I was bored, it wasn't like we had too much time, but I was overall satisfied with what we got to. I did think about it. I was talking to my wife, like, would we have been better off doing one less day, but buying Premier Pass and just like being able to skip all the lines and kind of getting more done in one day? I don't know. I think it worked out pretty well. Like, it's just hard to judge because it was so negatively impacted by the rain. I think if it just didn't rain and we had the exact same like experience, I would feel super positive about the whole thing, but the rain really did drag things
rain
down.
Gets you down no matter what. Like any adverse weather really kind of puts a damper, no pun intended, on your experience. I don't think we're going to do a DBC engagement this week. We're at almost 2 hours here. I don't know how to end this, Phil. So we're going to end it this way. Did you find your vacation in the vacation, or was this more like your early Disney trips where you had an itinerary and like you were hustling? Yeah,
it felt a little more like the early ones because there was a number of things I wanted to do when it was like, this is probably our only time we're ever going to be here. Who knows? I mean, I think I found those moments like that evening I had with my older daughter and stuff like that, where we were able to like kind of catch our breath and stuff like that. So I think I had some moments, but not as much as like we've grown into at Walt Disney World, where we can have those experiences of, if we don't get on it this trip, we'll get it on next trip. You don't really have that caveat here. So
yeah, I mean, especially with 3 days where everything's kind of packed into 3 days. But I think something that makes me think about like splitting up kind of allows you to have the vacation because people can go at their own pace, or at least at my pace. The people that want to go at my pace can go with me, and the people that want to go at my wife's pace can go with her. And we'll do that. All right. I think you had a wonderful vacation. I love looking at your pictures. I love all the food and everything else like that. I love how I never knew that there was that Walt restaurant there. Now I want that at Disney World, and I don't think I'm going to get it anytime soon. But I'm eager to see a lot of the changes at Disney World as they're building them now, because I think there's just so many different lessons learned. I just hope that those keep this is our first major expansion post Bob Chapek at Disney World, and I hope they just take the lessons from all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing that I talked about it a lot, but that was definitely one big takeaway I had, was how the plussing of attractions versus what we had stateside really made an impact. And so I'm glad to see that we're seeing some pluses, like we're seeing with Big Thunder and with Buzz Lightyear and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's worth it to do put those efforts in.
It'd be really cool if Big Thunder Mountain went through Piston Peak, but obviously they just built the whole track. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Maybe in 30 years or something like that. All right, Phil, I think we're going to end it here.
All right.
I was looking forward to this show for like a week. I couldn't wait to get your take on it. I always find it interesting psychologically, if all the feeling and nostalgia of that we get being at Disney World, because that's our home, right? We're always going back home at Disney World. If you had another similar park that you have zero emotional attachment to, like, what does that feel like with everything stripped away? And it seemed like it was just like you still felt the vibes, but it was different.
Yeah, it definitely was different. It was definitely the vibes. And, I think there were elements. I love that it did feel like there were a lot of touches to Walt in the park, even beyond the restaurant. So I thought that helped bring about some of those emotions, but definitely didn't have the nostalgia like you have with going back to Walt Disney World. But so I definitely got the Disney feels. They were just different Disney feels.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening. Make sure you hop on Discord, check out a lot of Phil's pictures, and ask him any questions or tips if you're heading to Paris too. Leave the comments if you like. With that being said, thank you for watching, listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Take care, everyone.